Coming to you live from our studios here in Lagos. I hope you had a wonderful and restful weekend. It's going to be a very fruitful week, and I know that you're already agile and able and on the road and on the move to ensure that you accomplish great things this week. My name is Jumoke Michael, so you're welcome. Banji, good to be here again.
Yeah, Jumoke, good morning. It's nice to be here. Well, as much as we are set on achieving great things this week, we must also be very conscious that our health is very, very critical to those aspirations. Particularly, we need to pay serious attention to protocols. That's COVID-19, the second wave. Some people are saying the second wave is not here. Well, whether or not it's here, the truth is that COVID-19 is here. And now you must always be conscious of this. Protocols, that's your face mask, hand sanitizer, wherever you go, keep it, put it in your pocket or your bag or wherever. And social distance is very, very important. It's no time to start gathering people in their thousands for parties yet. Please, let's be very, 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 very health conscious, safety conscious. Our health, our life is very, very critical to whatever aspirations we have this week. My name is Banji Busari.
All right, so today on the program, we'll be looking at the economy, specifically the budget 2021. And we titled our discussion this morning, Finding Solution to Budget Deficit. It's a very, very important discussion because it affects everyone's well-being in the year 2021. And so today joining us for this discussion, we have a financial analyst. He's the person of Mr. Osilama Okwofu. He's a development economist and also a partner Work Edge consultant. You're welcome, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Good to have you.
Thank you.
We have someone who is apt this morning, and
Great.
so we're going to break down all these financial things for us that, people hardly understand these things. So sometimes when we have
I don't, Jumoke, don't say people. People myself, I always try to improve, try to update myself when I come in contact with professionals like this. Sir, 21st of December last month was when the Senate actually passed the appropriation bill for 2021, and the figure was over 13 trillion. That's 13.58 trillion naira. 588 trillion, and that's a very humongous, very big figure. An average Nigerian, somebody like me, I feel happy that we are there from 10 trillion last year to 13 trillion this year. That's a big money. It should probably be shared amongst us, and everybody will be a billionaire or millionaire at least. So for you, the theme for this year's budget is economic recovery and resilience. Did that theme actually resonate with you? I mean, regarding the figure and developmental stages?
Well, the theme really is, those themes or tags, they always resonate. And we are good at, such naming ceremonies. The economy has actually been in recession for quite a while, so it's quite apt. And of course, there's a need for us to recover from the recession and forge forward by way of attaining certain developmental strides. So yes, it's okay, but what's in the name? What's in the name?
All right, so could you analyze the critical highlights of that budget?
Well, like you already said, I mean, it's over 13 trillion naira as against 10 trillion in 2020.
That's about 20% higher
increase. It's predicated on $40 per barrel. It's predicated on 1.86 million barrels
production per day.
And then the exchange rate is
379.
I can't really be exact with the figures. I think I was coming to write jump. But I think those are the key highlights. Of course, again, too, you look at the projected income is over 7 trillion. So which means there's a shortfall of over 5 trillion. So it's a deficit budget. is skewed more towards, I think over 6 trillion is for recurrent expenditure. And then the capital expenditure is 2.5 trillion as debt servicing. So I think those are actually the key elements. I can't start giving the breakdown in terms of
okay, yes. For me, one thing that actually strikes me more than any other thing is the fact that 3.02 trillion is going to be allocated to debt servicing. Okay. Because the main budget is that's 13.588. I mean, we will require about 6 trillion borrowing to be able to fund that budget. And the questions are, if you are borrowing that much to fund the budget, and you have to spend like 25%, or let's say between 20 and 25% to service your old debt, then what's the essence of continuous borrowing and then using the same money you have borrowed to service the old debt? And at the end of the day, you find out that you are even spending much more money on debt servicing than the actualization of the budget itself. So it's curious to me.
No, it's fine. The question you've just asked, was the essence of borrowing. Don't forget that we are a frontier or emerging economy. Borrowing is, there's nothing wrong with borrowing. Even America does borrow. It's actually the biggest borrower globally. The essential thing really is the monies you borrowed. How do you deploy them? But then again, don't forget that budgeting is a process, right? And then during the process, you articulate the things you want to achieve based on your actuals, your receivables. Now, the budget itself is a statement of intent. Okay, these are the things we want to do, right? Now, if you look at what you have and what you want to spend, if there's a shortfall, of course, you have to borrow to plug that gap, right? So if your income, your projected income, and your projected expenditure, if they don't balance, then of course, that's where the borrowing element does come in. We need to understand that the government operates like an individual. You as an individual, you have your income, your earnings, you get paid at the end of every month, by which time you must have made your projections as to what you want to spend. Now, if your projected spending outstrip your income, of course, you will start looking at avenues, areas that you want to borrow, because you necessarily need to meet those expectations. Now, what are those things that necessitate the need for the government to borrow? You have capital projects you want to execute. Like I said, we are a frontier economy. We have huge developmental gaps that we need to plug. So that's where the need for borrowing does come in. Just to wrap this up, you need to understand again also that we are hugely dependent on oil. Now we have a projection of 1.86 million barrels per day. You and I know that we don't come close to achieving that. We don't. So when you don't do, I think I may not be exact, but I think we actually should be looking at like 1.2 million barrels per day as what we actually as our actual. So you already see that there's a gap. There's a gap that needs to be plugged. And stuff like that. So these are the issues that necessitate borrowing. I don't have a problem with it. I'm not averse to borrowing. What do you do with the money you borrowed? What are the terms of the borrowing? What's the tenor? Don't forget again too that some of the monies that were borrowed in previous years have to be serviced. So there's a carry through into the current financial year. It's what you do with the money. Are they going to be income generating? If you borrow money, for example, and invest it in developing our race system, that's fantastic. But when you borrow money and you plow most of it into recurrent expense, which is salaries, emoluments, and things like that, stomach infrastructure, then we have a challenge. But if those monies are geared towards putting basic structures in place that decades from now they will still be there and they will generate income for us to even pay, the interest elements over time, I mean, that's fine. That's fine by me.
Okay. Before I ask my next question, let me just say that you can be part of this discussion by sending an SMS. Please would like you to send an SMS, not call the number on the screen. Send us an SMS on what you think, your thoughts on this issue of the budget. How government is funding. Are you okay with what government is doing? The strategies government has suggested to use to fund the 2021 budget. Which one of them was talking about going to retrieve funds from dormant accounts, and I really don't know the
unclaimed dividends.
Unclaimed dividends. Now they have also come up with sale of government properties. Now, would you say that these are strategies that are sufficient to run the recurrent and capital expenditures? Will it work?
It will work. Government can make anything work, except bring the dead back to life. But they are one-off transactions. I mean, governance is a continuum. By the time you finish selling government assets,
maybe including the presidential fleets,
which I think should be converted to our national carrier. What next? Because, we should be looking at projects that are income generating, that will create employment for especially our teeming youth. So I don't think they are long-term sustainable because they are one-off transactions.
Yeah.
If you clean out unclaimed dividends this year,
will there be more next year?
Next year, if you clean out accounts that are dormant, they won't be there next year. You sell your assets. You said they are gone. What I think we need to do, like I said, we need to plug certain obvious holes. Our recurrent expenditure has always been government in government. It's always been too huge. What does it mean? It means that your workforce is over bloated. And what is the efficiency ratio of your workforce? What's the return you get from the workforce? Especially during this COVID period where most of them are actually even at home, not efficient.
And they are being paid.
They are being paid. They are not efficient. What do I mean by they're not efficient? Unlike the private sector where staff work from home, they are connected, they are online real time, they even work better at home now. Most organizations have come to find out that their staff are more efficient working from home. Government workers were not even connected to networks and internet platforms in their offices. Not talk of now that they are not at home, but they still get paid. So I've actually in the past advocated that we need to prune down our workforce and then enhance the use of deploy IT infrastructure for more efficiency. When you do that, the recurrent expenditure aspect of the budget will drop and efficiency levels will improve because, of course, you will train and keep developing the staffers that are there for enhanced and continuously improved skills. So these are the things we really need to start looking at. Of course, again, to ensuring that we keep deploying our energies towards discovering more
mineral
resources. Thank you. More mineral resources. We shouldn't be purely dependent on oil because it's a depleting resource. And again, too, I'm glad that at least Nigeria has discovered gold in commercial quantity in Zamfara. I'm hoping that this back and forth between whether it's owned by the Zamfara state government or is owned by Nigeria as an entity will be sorted out. We have so much, there's bitumen in the southwest. And these are things that, we can, there's coal in the east. These are things we can, natural resources we can harness, and localize them within those just geographical, spaces, and deploy this country as much as we can.
Well, I like along that line. I also like you to actually X-ray our agro capacity. Are we actually investing enough in agriculture? Have you knowing that that's an area that we seem to have competitive edge as a nation? That we actually exploiting all the goods and the resources that we need to exploit along that line.
When you say competitive, who are you making that comparison with?
I mean, the land resource is there.
Yeah, the land mass, the land mass is there, but it's a wasting land mass. Drive around this country.
Because we are not investing in it. There are people that actually need the land,
yes.
But the lands are not. But for us, we have it sufficient.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. We have the land mass, very arable, that should be cultivated. All parts of the country, even in the north, but no, we are not investing so much in agriculture. The pointer to that is look at the budget. What's the allocation to agriculture? And a nation that cannot feed itself is a nation in crisis. But even worse still is that in recent years, you and I have come to see the herders farmers crisis. And some of us had warned before now that it's going to lead to a food crisis situation, which we are already seeing. There was a time that onions
Was good.
became gold. These are basic things. These are things that they will tell you, buy one, get 5 free. Suddenly you start looking for onions to purchase and use. So these are the issues. So issues of security, become basic and very key. A lot of farmers right now do not go to their farmlands because of
sorry, along that, the Ekiti State Governor said to have actually budgeted 1.4 billion naira to fund the Amotekun. Now you begin to wonder how much has actually been spent on agriculture. But he may have done the right thing because security is key.
Exactly.
Farmers have to stay on their farms.
Yeah.
Do you not think that insecurity is actually the reason why budget cannot actually be effectively implemented in the last couple of years?
Of course.
We spend huge amount on securing ourselves.
Exactly. Security is not cheap. It's not. And because you deploy such huge resources towards that direction, some of that areas will suffer. You're looking at opportunity cost for gun alternatives, right? Which shouldn't be. So, but you see, the issue of security is not something I really want to discuss on TV. It's quite sensitive, and I'm not a security expert. But you and I know that any society that is bereft of security will not attract investment, will not attract people coming to want to see how your country is. So we're talking about, this sector that has to do with, I'm having a brain freeze now.
Which of the sectors?
People, when visitors come to your
tourism.
Tourism. Do you understand? And tourism is very important. It's very key. Some countries depend purely on tourism. They make huge money, huge amount of, they garner so much resources from tourism. But when you are not even safe in your country as a Nigerian, what do you expect a foreigner to come and do? Because they know that we are not. Some parts of the country, are not safe. So why would they want to come and go and see the Kogosi water spring? Even though they've heard so much about it, they would love to see it, but they cannot come because they are not sure that they will even get there from the airport or even get to the airport from there. So you are losing as a country, as an entity, and like I said, as an emerging economy, we cannot do it alone. We need support from our development partners and foreign investors. And if they don't come for issues of security, we'll keep struggling.
All right, we're still being faced with the COVID pandemic, and 2020 was a year we said no one was expecting COVID, and there was really nothing in the budget assigned to that. Now we are in 2021 and the new budget has been released, and I guess they've started working with the new budget, but if you look at that budget holistically, does it portray a government that is really all out to curtail COVID, to have vaccines, fight it, make provisions for what the people actually need for this time?
Okay. Well, 132 billion was actually allocated to health. Yes. So,
Yeah. So, which may seem huge, but for a population size of over 200 million, and don't forget that health snowballs into putting hospitals in place, infrastructure. It involves buying drugs and other things you need to use to run the health sector. It equally involves paying staff. So all those are contained in the 132 billion that was budgeted. You see, the issue of the COVID-19 pandemic actually caught everybody by surprise. And even the most advanced economies are still struggling with it. So I'm hoping, of course, that governments will keep doing what they are doing by way of information dissemination. Simple things: if you're not wearing a mask, you won't enter. You need to sanitize and stuff like that. So creating that awareness and letting people know what they need to do. I mean, that's good enough. So I guess maybe that's where the National Orientation Agency does come in. So we again probably need to look at how much was earmarked for that, because it's critical. People need to know how to wear the mask. It's not a chin mask; it's actually a nose mask. And stuff like that. For the issue of the vaccine, I'm hoping that with time we'll be able to not only purchase those vaccines, but able to store them well, because they are touch and go. So those are the challenges we'll find ourselves faced with as a nation. But what I'm not happy about really is I've seen situations where some very prominent Nigerians had to travel out to take this vaccine. It's not good for the optics. I saw the wife of the governor of Anambra State in the US, even flaunting it. It's not nice. I saw the former vice president of Nigeria in Dubai taking the vaccine. So what happens to the ordinary Nigerians, that are here? So what it essentially means is, if you've done that, maybe with your family members, because you are privileged to do it, then you might not really care, about what happens here, because you've taken care of yourself. So when you say optics does matter, and our leaders and influencers too. I mean, they need to be very careful with what they show.
Well, I'm looking at the area of the power sector, because infrastructure is very, very key to development. Manufacturers always complain about the epileptic power supply and all that. Looking at budget 2021, 198 billion is actually allocated to power sector. Over time, do you see this budget being actually fully implemented? Do you actually see the value of the budget, of the monies or the figures allocated to that sector? This year, do you expect anything different?
No. I mean, you and I know that government and over the decades, our rate of implementing our budget has always not exceeded 30%. I've never exceeded 30%. Now, whereas they spend so much taking care of the recurrent expenditure, because of course they have to earn, they have to get paid. But if you look at, that's why we have infrastructure deficits. A situation where our road network, our rail infrastructure, but thankfully, the government before now, the Jonathan administration, did quite a lot in that area, and the Buhari administration followed through, which is good. So it shows that there's a continuum. That's why we say governance is a continuum. It's not about political parties and things like that. So I'm glad that, take the Kaduna Abuja rail. Jonathan completed it up to 95%, and President Buhari has completed it. It's now being used, and now they're looking at the Takpe Warri axis, which is fine. Exactly. By the time you rail Nigeria, our drive towards industrialization and development, we spike. The industrial revolution in Britain, gathered steam when the British rail came on stream. So these are the things we need to look at and put those basic infrastructure in place, and then of course decongest our roads and all that. There are time wasters and things like that. So these are the issues we really should hope that even when the government is borrowing, they are deploying into such infrastructural development that will.
But there's talk that
just a minute. I think our viewers need to know the numbers to send there. Please, let's have the number on the screen: 08023347006. 08023347006. Please send. Let's have them. Let's keep them coming as the messages. Talk to our guests today. Seek information. Know more about 2021 budget. This is the opportunity to actually, educate, get yourself informed about those critical areas we're actually talking about. Of course, it's not just about complaining all the time. Yes, get information. Is Buhari doing what he has proposed in the budget, or does he have the capacity? His administration, does the administration have the capacity to actually implement to the letter those proposals, those projections? So that's our focus today. Yes, Jumoke.
All right, so I was going to say that even the provision for the rail transport, there's a lot of complaint that is quite expensive, especially the route from Lagos to Ibadan,
yes.
About 5,000,
yes.
6,000.
Yes.
So would that in any way alleviate the struggles of the people or the yearn for a better life?
No, I think over time, on the long run, it would. By the time more people, start utilizing the rail system, I'm sure when the demand increases, of course, I'm sure they will probably start looking at reducing the transport cost of it. Because you might be surprised. Don't be surprised that if you even check the usage right now, it's not optimal. It's not optimal. So the increase in the current price may just be to ensure that going back and forth, if nothing, I'll discover your cost, right? But by the time more Nigerians, I'm sure, cutting onto the idea of using rail to transmute, so of course, I'm sure that price will most likely come down. But again, let's be cooperative with the government. It's our government, it's our rail system. We should buy into the vision of it and make it work.
So I will not when there's a cheaper cost. If I'm traveling from here to Ibadan, I can get a bus of 500 naira or 1,000 at most. Of course, I will not go for 3,000.
How long? That's why you're talking of. Time is money, right? How long would it take you to go by road from Lagos to Ibadan?
I think
compared to
shorter time by road.
It can't be. It can't be shorter. And then again, to some other risk elements. We talked about the issue of security. And things like that. But yeah, I do agree. I understand. I've read where people have actually complained about the price. Fine, but like I said, I want to believe that with time, it will certainly get better.
We're still on the topic. That's finding solutions to the budget deficit. I'm worried because we seem not to have actually hit the nail on the head. In and out, year in, year out, administration from one administration to another, this issue of budget deficit has become like something that refuses to go. What can we do today, this year, with this budget, to ensure that next year we do not have to borrow so much, even though you have convinced us that borrowing is part of development, but using so much, huge amount, 25%. Does America use 25% to service debts? And how can we practically reduce that?
No, like I said, let's understand that. Like I said, there's a budgeting process, and then there's the budget itself. The budgeting process is you saying, okay, this is what I want to do within a month. These are the things I want to purchase. These are the things I want to consume. These are the services I want to enjoy. You then benchmark that with your income. If what you are earning is less than what you propose to enjoy and purchase and transact, you are in deficit. So it's not something you have a choice over. It's based on what you want to do. You know, we are talking about actual now, reality from abstraction. We're talking, macroeconomics is about the actual things. If you now want us to delve into econometrics, it's a totally different transaction. That's an abstraction from reality, where you start bringing in so many variables into play that may work or may not work. But the government does not just sit down and say, let's go for budget, let's have the deficit budget. It's the reality that they're faced with. That's it. You know, that is why, of course, the intent, what they want to strive at essentially is to balance the budget. That's why even in a place like the United States of America, it's a very key electoral requirement if you are running for office. How do you want to balance your book? Nobody wants a deficit budget, but the reality is that is the way it is. You know, but for me, the issue is not so much about the deficit or the borrowing. It is what the deficit and the borrowing has achieved for us. That is what is key. If you are borrowing $10 billion, right, from the Chinese government over 20 years at an interest rate of 1 or 2% per annum, it's good. And then, of course, you deploy that money efficiently and effectively. It's good. You know, but when you borrow that 10 billion for 2 years at an interest rate of 8 to 10%, you have a challenge. So tenor is key. Interest rate is important. The deployment of what you borrow is even more fundamental. Those are the issues we need to look at. We are a sovereign nation. So sovereign borrowing is good if it is for developmental purpose, and the monies borrowed and the terms of borrowing are not going to be choking for generations to come.
So should we expect, or should we look forward to coming out of the recession the shortest possible time?
You come out of a recession through spending. And that is why I have always advocated that we need to ramp up on our capital spending. By the time you deploy a lot of resources in building your roads, your hospitals, your schools, and stuff like that, what are you doing? You're essentially creating jobs. You know, block by block, road network by road network, you are developing, you are advancing, right? So that will create, there will be other ancillary opportunities there. The Iyabilikisu that is selling rice to the workers wouldn't have had that opportunity, right? The local business people who maybe supply certain materials that they will need, that's creating business opportunities for them. Now, even certain hotels or guest houses that some of those workers will have to use for the period that they are executing the projects around those areas. Those are key. Those are the things we need to look at. You know, so you create wealth based on economic activities, you know, by going on around, by way of infrastructural development. So yes, we can come out of a recession. What is a recession? When you have 3 quarters of negative growth. Negative growth means you don't have enough, you're not deploying enough resources, employment rate is very high, you know, disposable income is low, and things like that. So if you reverse that, the reverse is
okay, at 3%,
out of depression.
The GDP is actually projected on the 3% per annum. For you, what's your assessment of that projection?
Gross domestic, you're talking about your GDP growth, your projected growth. Fine, where are we right now? We are negative, I think negative 4%. So you have to first of all correct your depression before you start talking of growth. So it's a long haul. So like I said, a budget is a statement of intent. We are hoping, of course, that if certain proper measures are put in place, especially with respect to, like I said, capital expenditure, you develop your infrastructure, you create wealth and economic activities. Those are the things, of course, that will determine how well your GDP rises. Of course, again, too, if you're able to increase your oil production, from where it is now to where you expect it to be, and hoping that you have the market to sell, you earn income, and then of course your foreign reserve, is improved upon. But I think right now, though, yeah, we predicated our budget on $40 per barrel for Brent crude, and it's over $50 as of today, which is good, but there has to be a market. But you and I know that the global economy is on shutdown, is on lockdown, not much activities are going on. In places like China, the industries are not really rolling as much as. So economic activities globally, are not buoyant. So these are the issues. Your projection is good, your growth projection is good, but you necessarily need to work towards ensuring that you achieve them by putting some of these things we've talked about, we've highlighted. If these things are not there, it's just something written on paper.
All right, so what should be the mindset or the attitude of Nigerians now to be able to cope with the economy?
What we need to do essentially is make certain adjustments. You have to make a lot of adjustments. And I think this COVID lockdown has actually made a lot of Nigerians understand that certain things that we used to spend so much resources on, we don't need them. Okay, a lot of people don't go partying anymore. A lot of people don't spend money on clothes anymore, because you find out that during the lockdown, morning till night you're on your pajamas. You're not going anywhere. It's just you and your family. You're on lockdown, so the need to now go and start buying clothes for yourself and the children is not there. So it's to just, cut down on things that are not really important.
And even our taste.
That's what I'm saying. Cut down on things that are not really relevant. Understand that the economy is not in a good place right now, just so that you don't run into debt as an individual, just like your nation. You are complaining about the nation. Like I said, the difference between you as an individual, a corporate organization, right, or institution, and the government, is the fact that you are just an individual. I'm a corporate organization, you are a government. We operate in the same way, exactly the same way.
Our guest, Mr. Osilama
Okofu is our guest, and he's a development economist and partner Work Edge Consultants. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your vast knowledge with us.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right, and that's our program today. Join us again on Wednesday for another edition. My name is Jumoke Michael. See you again. Bye.
And I'm Banji Busari. Thanks for being part of today's edition. See you.